we've been told they're healthier and better for our health and better for the planet. Like, how can we be sure of that?
Yeah, no, I mean, to be honest, that's the golden question, really. And going back to what was said before about, the certification and low VOC type kind of testing, the issue we have is there's not enough resources out there globally to actually be able to facilitate real accountability for what low VOC actually means. So it's kind of like B Corp and this kind of situation where, people can self-certify essentially. They can kind of run in their own laboratory testing. They can go over to the States or various others other countries where there's kind of a lax in what we would class as low VOC. So unfortunately, we can't really trust the label too much on even the type of certification at the minute, which doesn't help because that's what we've got. So that's kind of the best scenario at the minute. But what we need is something which generates trust and accountability for products, for manufacturers, for designers, so that we have a clear-cut understanding of exactly what's going on. As well, which I'm finding is a lot of the testing, like I say, is to do with laboratory testing. So therefore you have controlled steady state conditions. It's all perfect. It's all based on manufacturer's guidance, and real life doesn't work like that. So you might have paint being stored in an outside cupboard where it gets overheated, or water comes in, or you could have chemicals mixing around. You're then going to be slopping it into a paint dish which has probably been used 20 times before, so it's then immediately going to be mixing with something else, or you're going to be applying onto a surface that's got an undercoat or a plasterboard. And there's so many complex dynamics as to, it's not just simply, is that product safe? So then it's then being able to say, okay, well, how do we monitor our homes and what it's doing through the off-gassing and the life cycle of where we're living and how we're living in those homes. So I think kind of the sensor side of stuff is coming down in price. Beforehand, for the last sort of 5 years, it's been oh my god, it's amazing, but it's really expensive. No one can afford it. And now kind of the price is coming down. The sensors are getting smaller, easier to purchase. So actually having those in homes allows you to then monitor more easily what's going on, particularly if you've already applied products. And also building regulations. Unfortunately, I did a very interesting case study at the beginning of my PhD, and it just said, well, what is the extent of the issues we're facing in this country alone? So I put together I suppose a fake case study of this client of mine that was next to the seafront. They have kind of respiratory issues, health concerns, and they needed more optimal conditions. What could they advise me? So I went to various energy efficiency assessors, I went to various building regulation control officers throughout the country. I mixed it around, I gave them exactly the same. Every single one of them just pointed me back to building regulations, which, I mean, how many people know about kind of the approved documents? Probably not many. Yeah, so they're boring and they are just universally unhelpful. And that's all you have to go on. So, as designers, as consumers, as manufacturers, we're really not being able to, trust the guidance, and we're not able to trust the quality of standards yet. So I think there's a lot more around being able to hold people accountable that needs to be done. And I think to also, like we've got several people, and I'm sure that you have the same issue here, where you are a proud kind of healthy, low VOC, natural paint provider, but it's cutting through that, I suppose, white noise of these big companies that are coming in and promising the earth and promising the same stuff, and actually we all know it's a marketing ploy. So when you're on a shelf next to some of these higher brands, and from a consumer perspective, and you don't know what one to pick, they all essentially have the same low VOC logo on, and it's like, well, actually they're not all the same. And this is really where I think as a movement towards more sustainable, healthy living, we need to really crack down on that accountability. But to do that, we need obviously more awareness of it, which is obviously why we do these talks.
So before we go to audience questions, so audience, get your questions ready. I just have one last question for you all. I guess, I know Dennis, you're gonna like this question. I guess it's just like, what one thing would you like to see either the government change or change in people's awareness that would get us closer to the goal of having products and brands in our homes that are healthier for us and healthier for the planet?
One thing.
Or many things if you think.
I'd like us to be involuntarily better informed. It's no longer as useful to know what the weather forecast is as the climate forecast, but no one tells us anything meaningful. In fact, there's a large part of the media that have gone in completely the other direction and think that environmentalism, the health of the planet, survival of the human race is somehow a political issue. And therefore, I'm going to guess that if you're a right-wing voter, maybe you've got a polluting car, so I'm going to make you feel better about that and say that all this net zero shit is just that and we can't afford it. My proper answer is declaration of ingredients, please, on the tin of a page. Thank you very much, I'll accept that.
Fabulous, Dennis. I see you out there campaigning all year. Tell us what one change.
I would like us to move to Europe's law. It's quite straightforward. Europe has a general product safety regulation, and in it, if you're IKEA, for example, making furniture, you look at the safety in the home from the release of chemicals, you look at the fire safety, and you balance the two. And you look at the occupational exposure of your workers, and that it's all balanced, and it's all in perspective, and then you make your decision based upon that. We've got to change our UK law.
Great, thank you. Jason?
Yeah, so I think the kind of declaration of ingredients is fantastic. I think that needs to be a holistic answer across the board for anything that's related to the fabric of the envelope of the building, internal, interior, insulation, everything. But then I think that needs to be put into an approved document of its own within building regs. So obviously we've got, fire safety, trips and falls, we've got, all the structural, ventilation, all of this stuff, but we don't have anything really of use within building regulations currently about our internal air quality and the materials that we're using. So what I'm fighting for really is, I suppose proving that natural insulation can be more effective than synthetic like PIR insulation. Because that tends to be the go-to. Everybody, contractors know it, building regulations know it. It's easily kind of accessible, but there's so much petrochemical kind of ingredients in there, and the off gassing is crazy. And then obviously going towards more kind of air tightness as well, just compounding that issue. So being able to then move away from that and have much more kind of regulatory accountability and transparency is so important. But then just touching on the whole kind of fire regulation side of stuff, there's scare tactics now where they said, well, sheep's wool, for example, you can't use sheep's wool to set fire, you have to have some kind of chemical fire retardant. Well, no, actually sheep's wool doesn't even combust with the amount of oxygen we have in our air, it singes. So, and we know this through developers that are, in the nicest words, absolute plebs. And drilling and sparking right next to sheep's wool without any synthetic fire retardants, and it just singes and they put it out. And that's as far as it goes. So yeah, I think we need to go down that route.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and visit us at Decorex today and for sharing all your amazing insights. I'm sure some of the audience have got some questions, and I'll come around with the mic. But please can you thank the wonderful guests here today, Edward, Delit and Jason, for taking the time to share their amazing insights with us. Thank you.